Hi everyone, happy Saturday and welcome back to our Saturday Anything Goes series. I had a request for today's episode, and that was from my downline, Lori Bonnell, and she had been seeing on YouTube quite a few people doing what's called the impossible card. And so she challenged me to go ahead and make one. And you know me, I love a good challenge. So this is the result, and this is actually my very first one. And it can be a little bit challenging. There's nothing difficult about making the card itself. It's the measurements, because if your measurements are off, then it's just not going to look quite right. And we'll get more into that. I've actually created a template that you'll be able to hopefully do a screenshot of so that you have it for your use. But this, like I said, this is the one I did, and this is using the retiring paper Delightful Daisy. I just love this paper, so I wanted to give it one more go. And the flowers that are stamped on the design panel are from Daisy Delight. And then our bumblebees, which are just starting to buzz around our yard. These are from the, what is it? The Dragonfly Dreams dies. And then my sentiment is actually from a new stamp set. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. Now, the original Impossible card does not have this bridge. The reason I put it on there, and I think you'll understand why once we cut the base for this, is that it was pretty floppy. And it's good in a reason because you can kind of fold it all up, and then when people pull it out of the envelope, they flip it over and ta-da! But like I said, it was a little too flimsy for me, and I wanted just a little more stability. So I'd seen other people on YouTube putting a bridge here. Many of them also put a bridge on the back. I felt it had plenty of stability just doing the front bridge. So we'll talk about how to do that as well. All right, let me pull this out of the way. Just stick it up here in the corner and bring in the template. Like I said, it's not difficult, but there is some measuring that you need to do. And I actually found that my T ruler was a big help. I tried just lining it up in my trimmer, and oh my gosh, I kept being like 1/8 of an inch off in places, and I couldn't get anything to work after that. But basically, you start out with a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 sheet of cardstock. And then you want to find the center points. So what I did, we know that half of 4 1/4 is going to be 2 1/8. So I simply put a 2 1/8 mark on either end, took my T ruler and just drew a line down the center. And then we needed also to find the halfway point here. So 2 3/4 on each side, and I went ahead and drew the line all the way. And you don't see it over here because I erased it. So that kind of let me know where my midpoints were. For each of the small ends, I measured 1 1/8 inch here and 1 1/8 inch here, and simply took that all the way up to that center line. So our center line, as you can see, is really important. Once you have that drawn out, though, keep that as your template, and you can use it over and over and over again, and it becomes very easy. I also had someone mention that they did their template on vellum, so they could just very easily lay it over and make sure that their lines lined up. All right, so once you've got that, and I went ahead, and this is going to be the base for today's card. So this is out of Calypso Coral. And you can see I drew my center line, and then I drew my center line the other way, and then I just erased that part. And then there's my 1 1/8 there drawn up to my center point. If you're not confused yet, let's continue on. I promise you, once you make one, then it all makes sense. what I'm going to do is I want to cut, and long scissors are really best for this because that way you have a pretty good chance of getting a straight line. So I'm going to cut this halfway up. So I'll cut it up to that center point right there. And then the only other cuts we're going to make are at that 1 1/8 all the way up to the center again. So there's one, and here comes the other one. Okay, so this is what we have so far. Now, another reason I left this line here, we need to score it so that it will fold over nicely. So for this, I'm going to bring out my handy dandy trimmer, push my cutting blade down to the bottom, line it up so that my center point is right in the tracks. And then I'm going to start this at that 1 1/8 right there. And we're going to take and score it all the way down to the other 1 1/8 mark. And you can see the pencil mark there. That's why I left them in there. I'm just going to go ahead and score that. Some people say it's easier just to score all the way across, and you certainly can. You're going to put DSP on there that will hide those score marks. But I just went ahead and scored it on that center point. Now I'm going to gently lift this up. And this is why it's called the impossible card. Are you ready? And always do it backwards. Let's do it the right way. So you flip one end up and one end down. And there is how it lines up. Just like that. And there's the base to our impossible card. Actually, I think I like that. Nope, I like that. So you can use either side. All right, so that's the hard part. Now comes the easy part. We get to decorate it. I have cut another template, if I can find it. Here it is, for your DSP. So you want a 4-inch by 2 5/8 inch strip of DSP. And then this is going to measure, let's see, 7/8 of an inch is this part. So all you do is mark your 7/8, and I did it top and bottom and drew my line with my T-ruler again. And then I cut up to the 2 1/8 mark. All right. That gave me 2 pieces of DSP. And if I've cut these right, I do have this backwards. Here we go. What you'll see is that they fit right in those areas for decorating. And actually, this is what I wanted to show you. You need to pay attention when you're cutting the DSP. So you might think, oh, I can cut 2 pieces out of the, just like this. The thing is, remember, you're flipping part of the card over. So you want, if it's a directional pattern, you want to cut this piece with the pattern going up and down. And then this piece also with the pattern going up and down. But because we're having that larger part at the top, I actually cut both of them. But what I did was I turned my DSP around 180 degrees. So my top was actually at my bottom. And that way I could put the 2 pieces together. And what I did was I just took my template, laid it down over the top of the DSP, and I cheated. I just used a pencil to mark on there where I wanted to cut and cut it with the scissors. So I've got, if you look at them, they're 2 identical pieces, but one has the pattern going the right way, the other has the pattern going upside down. And that's because we're going to flip it. And now we have the pattern going the correct way for both pieces. So let's go ahead and glue this down. Hi, Chris. Thanks for joining. Hope you're having a great Saturday. All right, so I'll put kind of a goodly amount, but I don't want gloppiness. And I like to use liquid glue, again, because that way it's easy for me, if I don't get it straight on the first go-round, to shift things around a bit. And then give it a good press. Now I'll just turn this around and do this one. So really it goes together fairly quickly once you've got your measurements and your cutting done. All right, so let me slide this one up there. I need to move it just a tad. I know it's a little bit hard to see. Come on, move for mama. There we go. I actually could have moved that over a little bit more. Let me see if I can just quickly get it off without too much damage and put it down the right way. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. I think it's going to let me because it hasn't dried all the way. All right. Do a little more glue on it. And you may have to adjust your DSP a little bit. Like I said, if any of your cuts are a little bit off, you may end up with one side that's a bit wider or narrower than the other side. And just kind of gauge it. I like to line up my top piece first and then bring the bottom down and slide it a little bit. Okay, so there we go. Now we need our bridge. So I have a piece that of colored cardstock that is 3 inches by, what is it, 7/8 of an inch. Oops, I'm upside down. Make sure you're going the right way. So even though our bridge is going to be on this side, really doesn't matter. So that will be the mat for my sentiment. And my Whisper White sentiment strip is 2.5 by 3/4. I think I'll use the same sentiment that we used, or that I used on my original card. I just think it's so pretty. And as far as colors, I'm going to go ahead and stamp it in one of our new in colors, Grapefruit Grove. I love Grapefruit Grove. It's just such a nice color. So I'll ink up my stamp here. And stick my tongue out just right. Line this up and stamp it down. And I'm just going to hold it for a count of 3 or 4. And there we go. So we have our sentiment stamped. Put my Grapefruit Grove up for now. We'll come back and use it when we do the design panel. But now what we can do is, this is going to fit right on here like this. And the reason that I stamped it in the Grapefruit Grove rather than the Calypso Coral is I wanted a little bit of contrast. I thought that would look really nice. You could pick any of the colors out of your DSP. For instance, I could have used rich razzleberry. I could have used crumb cake. I could have used old olive. Any of those would also work depending on what color cardstock mat you're using. Okay, so let's glue this down. And I just glued this straight down. I think I'm about to use up a bottle of Tombow here. Like I said, I use it for almost everything, so I go through it pretty quick. But honestly, a bottle, I'm sure, lasts me probably a couple of months. All right, so there we go. And now we just need to figure out where we want it. Now, see how wonky these things are? This is why I wanted to put a bridge in there, so that it helps stabilize it. So I'm going to line this up on my grid paper. And then when I put the glue on, I'm only going to put it on each end, none in the middle. because otherwise that would make it very sticky on the back. And now, again, making sure I have this lined up. And I'm just going to work on one side, so I'm not trying to hold that side down. I know it's going to lay down flat. And then I'm using my grid paper also to line up where I want it. Got that? Now I can come over here, make sure this is centered on my grid paper, and press that down. Now that gives us a lot more stability. It's a good thing, yes? Okay. Next, we get to work on our design panel. And I've cut 2 pieces of paper that are 2 inches by 3 1/8 inches. And they'll fit perfectly within our little pop-up section. One of them is for the back, because you need a place to write a little note. And the other one is our design panel that we will use on the front. And as you can see, I cut it to where there's just a tiny, tiny border of the Calypso Coral around it. I wanted to have a pretty big space in which to do some stamping. Let me go ahead and glue this piece onto the back just to get it out of the way. And you may want to write your note before you put this on, because once you get embellishments on the front, it can be difficult to go in and write, because it makes it all lumpy and bumpy. So that bridge is making this pop up here, so it might be more difficult for me to write. So I would suggest writing in your sentiment or your handwritten note before you glue that on there. Okay, now we're ready to work on our design panel. And I wanted to use a new stamp set. I did an unboxing yesterday, and this was in it. I told everybody it was just one of the first things that drew my eye when I saw our pre-order. So this is our abstract impressions. And I've already mounted the stamps I'm going to use, but let me tell you what they are. I'm going to use the grass stamp, and then this is a 2-step stamp. So I'm going to highlight in a darker color using that stamp. And then we have these lovely little, I call them poppies, abstract poppies. So we'll go ahead and stamp that. And then again, this is 2-step stamping, so we'll do the highlight in a darker color. And then I also have a butterfly that we're going to use, but that's from our Serene garden stamp set. So I'll save that until we're ready for it. But that was the design that I thought I was going to do. I also want to put a larger sentiment on here. So I'm going to use "There's So Much to Love About You" on the design panel as well. And I haven't quite decided. I think I'm probably going to stamp it in rich razzleberry. I need a deep dark color because I'll want it to cover up some of the flowers that I have stamped behind it. So those are the stamps I have mounted up. As far as the inks that we're going to use, hi Amy. I pulled out Grapefruit Grove and Calypso Coral for my flowers. I pulled out Pear Pizzaz for my grass, and I'm still thinking about a darker color to use with that. I may go with Mossy Meadow, so we'll see in a minute. I think Garden Green is just going to be too bright for it. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to use rich razzleberry as well. So let's go ahead and start with our Pear Pizzaz, because I want to go ahead and get my grass out of the way. Now let's talk for a minute about 2-step stamping. So you have, and let me just kind of lay it down here so you can see. You have a larger grass image, and then you have what I call the highlight one. It's narrower. It's meant to fit inside. And you might think, oh, you know, I should do the lighter colored one before I do the darker one. And you certainly can, because with this one, it's pretty easy to line up. But I like to start with the darker color first and then move on to the lighter. And that just makes it a little bit easier for me to line things up. So I'm going to put my darker color on here, and then let's grab, let's see, Granny Apple Green is going to be just a little too, how about Shaded Spruce? I wonder if we could use that for our darker color. Let's try that. It will either work or it won't, right? And we've got two sides of this design panel, so I can always flip it over if I don't like it. Okay. I also have scratch paper down. How about I just try it and see? So I'll stamp it over here. Oh, I think that's going to look pretty. And then let me mount this. Take that off for a moment. And I'll use the Pear Pizzaz for this. So let's see how the two look together. So as you can see, because I stamped in the dark, much easier for me to go in and to line this up. So let's see, there's my, and they don't have to line up exactly because, hello, it's grass, right? Okay, what do we think about that? Shaded Spruce is a little blue. But you know, I think I'm going to go with it anyway. So let me bring back in and let me get another block here so I don't have to keep moving back and forth. So I'll go in. I wonder what happened if I stamped off. That's probably not going to be dark enough. Okay, we'll just go with it. And keeping in mind that I want to put my flowers around here, I'm just going to have it down towards the bottom part. Maybe some up a little bit higher. So this is where we just kind of get to play with it. Just like that. I like that. All right, now let me close this up so I don't forget and put my lighter grass in there. Now I'll take my Pear Pizzaz, and again, I'm just not doing the whole stamp on there because I pulled it off the page. So lining it up here. Let's see, this one I want right about there. And then this one there. And there's our grass. Easy breezy. Now let's work on our flowers. I toyed with doing the rich razzleberry flowers, but I thought it would be a little too much of the purple. I really wanted to stick with some of the lighter colors that are in the designer series paper. So I elected to go with Grapefruit Grove for the base stamp of the flowers and highlight with Calypso Coral. So we're going to try that. We can always change our mind. Look at me trying to open this new stamp pad the old way. I'm still getting used to them, but they really are fairly easy to work with. And I love that we have this strip that we can put inside, making it easy for us to tell what we've got open. Again, I've got, this is two-step stamping. So this is the highlight stamp, and this one is the background stamp. On the first stamping we did with the grass, I went with the highlight first, but here I'm going to go with the base stamp, so kind of the lighter background stamp. And that's because I want to make sure that I have enough room to put these. And let me just stamp that. Sometimes if it's a new stamp, you have to kind of break it in a little bit. It gets bubbles on it. All right, so we're going to take, and keeping in mind, I'm going to have that sentiment here, but I'm still going to want to put some flowers behind it. And because this is pretty abstract, I don't have to be right on top of the grass with it. I can just go in, and you know what? I'm going to go back. I still have a little bit of ink, and I'm going to rotate my stamp just a little bit to make these even bigger and to make it look like there are shadows behind it. That's one really nice way to use these impressionistic type stamps, is to do that double stamping to give you even more, the look of even more flowers. Let's do this one right here, and then I'm going to turn it right away and stamp again. Again, I'm not putting on more ink. I am simply stamping right there over what I've already stamped. And I want to get a little more over here. So I inked up my stamp, but because I want a second impression, I stamped off, and now I'm just going to stamp it there. All right, so let me pull this up to see if you can see. Can you see how it's got, it looks like there are flowers in the background. I really like the way that looks. Okay, now we can go in. I could leave it like that and be perfectly happy with it. But I think I want to try and put some highlights in there to make it look two-dimensional, three-dimensional. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my this stamp, which is my highlight stamp, and I'll do this in the darker color. I'm going to test it out first. Let me pull these off so I can see. So I'm going to test it. Oh, I like the two colors together. I really do. All right, let me pull this down just a little bit. And lining them up is pretty easy, she said with a smile. Just have to remember, oh, right there. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because this is impressionistic. So you're just going to go in. Ooh, I made a mess. Got ink all over my glass block. So let's just clean that up with my chamois real quick. All right. That's better. And again, I'm just going to go in here and figure out where this goes. And I believe we go right there. You can kind of follow that curve. So you can see just how pretty that is. I really like that. So I think I'm done with that. And now let's look at, I wanted to do this sentiment, which is, there's so much to love about you. And I'm going to do it over here on the right-hand side. Obviously, I've got a lot going on here. So I need to make sure I'm doing a much darker color so that you'll actually be able to read that. So I'll pull in the rich razzleberry. And like I said, I'm not sure this is going to work, but hey, we'll give it a shot. Let me see how dark it is. I've got this grass down here. Let's see if you can see it over it. And yes, you can. And that was what I really wanted to make sure of. So I'll ink it up really well. And then pull this down here so it's straight. Stick out my tongue. Come on. And I love my new setup here in the craft room because I can get really close to it, almost getting my head in without it jiggling the camera. So finally I have the camera up high enough. And I'm going to leave it there for a count of 2 or 3 and then pull it off. And there we go. And this is what we're going to put right there. Wow. Look at that. How festive and springy is that? I'm loving it. Now I'm going to let that dry because Rich Razzleberry and I, don't get along very well, I always manage to smudge it. And so I promised myself that this time I'm not touching it. I'm just going to leave it alone because I did want to add a butterfly, maybe more than one butterfly. As you saw in the original card I did, I used bumblebees. So this time I'm going to use a butterfly. And I'm going to switch stamp sets and use another new one, which is Serene Garden. It's got this beautiful little butterfly here. And I just thought it would be so cute to make, especially since I have a die to go with it. So, oh, I guess I already have him out. Yes, I do. There's my little butterfly. And decisions. What color? I don't think I want to do it in the rich razzleberry, simply because there's already a lot of that going on with the sentiment. I don't want to do Calypso Coral or Grapefruit Grove because it would just kind of get lost in there. I'm thinking that we do blue because there is blue or bluish green in here. We have the Mint Macron, and then we also have Tranquil Tide. And or I could cut it out of glimmer paper, but no. I think we've got enough going on without doing that. So how about we do a Tranquil Tide? I think I have Tranquil Tide up here somewhere. I stored all my in-color ink pads for last year in my cupboard. I'm still using them, but I wanted to make room in my carousel for the new colors because my carousel only holds 48 inks. And with the addition of so many new ones, I think we're up to, what is it, over 50 now. All right, so I've got my Tranquil Tide. And we'll just test it. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, see, I think that's going to be really pretty. So I'll get a scrap piece of white. And I'll go ahead and stamp it down. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Now you can take and with your markers, you could color it in. I think you can even color it in with the blends. I'm going to be really brave and see if I can. Because, you know, it's only paper, right? So if it smudges, I can come back and do another one. But no, look how pretty that is. Just wanted to add in a little bit of color because our die is just an outline die. So I know it's not going to cut anything out other than the outline. So we have that. And I wonder if I should do the outline in this. Yes, let's do that. Or, do I want to pull in any yellow? Nope. I'm going to stick with blue. I'm just going to go do the outline of this, just so we have a couple of different colors. Don't want it to get lost among those flowers. They're very busy. Okay, there we go. And the wonderful thing about the blends is they dry immediately. So no having to wait for those. All right. I'm going to take my butterfly die. And this is from the die set that goes along with the Serene Garden. And so it'll fit right like that. Put it down. And I've got my big shot sitting right here to the side, so it may get a little noisy. Nope, it's getting better. I think I finally have it broken in. And there is our butterfly. All right, hoping that that's dried now. I think I'm going to adhere this straight to the cardstock, leaving just a little bit of a border around. Just like that. All right. And now I can decide where I want my butterfly. And I will prop my butterfly up. Let me get out my reverse tweezers here. Makes it a little bit easier to see where. I think I want it to go right there. What do you guys think? Put it there. I could put it up there. But I really don't want it hanging off the card. That way I can still get it in an envelope. So I do think I'm going to put it right there. I will prop that up on dimensionals. And I think the big ones will work on it. We'll see. Probably one is all I need. You know, let's take and put a mini down on the bottom. I love it. We've got the minis that we can use that make it so easy for those smaller places. Peel off my backing. And I'm going to use my reverse tweezers to place it, because with my big fat fingers, I can never get it on there right. Okay, so we'll just bring it in here. And I gently set it down. If I don't like it, I can adjust it, but I'm thinking it looks good right there. All right, what else do we need, guys? What else do we need? How about a little wink of Stella? Gotta have a little wink of Stella. We'll do the butterfly's wings and wink of Stella. I did see a butterfly the other day. One of my little yellow ones was out flitting around the rose bush. So it's finally warm enough for them to start coming out from being a caterpillar to a butterfly. So we've got that. I'm thinking we might need a little something here. Should we do butterflies, or what about just embellishments? See what we have in our bag of tricks here. Now we have the artisan pearls, and those match beautifully. So I may put a couple of those on there, but they're pretty small. I could take some bigger pearls and color them. Ooh, looky here. I forgot about the faceted dots. Oh yeah, those are pretty. We also have, just to give us a choice here, our faceted buttons. Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh. How fun are these? And they come in 2 different sizes. So we could do that. I don't know, guys. What do you think? What do you think? Should I do the faceted buttons? Should I do the faceted dots that are smaller? Or should I try just the artisan pearls? You know what? I'm going to go with the faceted buttons. I think they're large enough to not get lost because this card is so busy. But also, the colors are perfect. And I love that they're sparkly. A little bit translucent, but definitely sparkly. And I'm going to attach these, I think, just using glue dots. So let me grab my glue dots here. Now, we certainly could thread some twine through there and tie little bows. That takes quite a bit of time for me because it's not as easy for me to see those little holes. So I may make some little bows later and come back and just attach them to the center. But for right now, I think I'm going to just put these here and there. And I've only decorated this side. You absolutely, if you wanted to, could put a different design panel on here and decorate that side as well if you didn't want to save that for a handwritten note. So it's really up to you what you do with this impossible card. There's lots of different ways to go in and embellish it. Even your card choices, your colors are just endless. Whatever DSP that you happen to have will absolutely work with it. But to me, the fascinating thing, once I got all of the measurements down, was simply the fact that I was able to get it to work. It isn't that difficult, really. It's simply a matter of taking your time and doing your measurements. Let me just pull off this little sheet of paper here. Getting in the way of us seeing this pretty creation. There. That's better. Okay. I think you can see that much better now. And again, it's perfectly mailable. Now, with these buttons are pretty large. If you had used rhinestones or even the artisan pearls or regular pearls, you wouldn't have to worry about padding it and it costing a little more postage. But this absolutely will slide right into an envelope and can be mailed. Okay, so that is our impossible card. Not so impossible after all. It actually was a lot of fun to make. Once I got all the measurements down, it took no time at all to cut out the parts. Are there any questions about making the impossible card? Thank you, Amy. All right. Well, if you do think of a question, please leave me a comment below, and I'll be happy to get back with you. If you need to order supplies, please go to my blog, cardsbywinnie.wordpress.com, and you can shop there. You can also see a lot of other different projects, tutorials that we've done over this series. So I'm going to let you go for now. One announcement before I go, gang. Next Saturday and the following Saturday, we will not have Facebook Lives because Linda will be on a cruise. And I just found out that they don't have Wi-Fi except in certain areas. So I was hoping to be able to possibly do at least one Facebook Live from the ship, but it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to. I'll try to make some projects and put them on my blog and have a YouTube video for those. So I will post that. If you have subscribed to my blog, you'll get notifications of that. If you've subscribed to my Facebook page, my blog is linked to my Facebook page. So it will also notify you there if I do have any videos out while I'm gone. So in my absence, be fruitful, create, have a good time. I'd love to see your projects when I come back. Okay, everybody, have a great rest of your weekend. Bye-bye now.